שלום וברכה, מוריי ורבותיי, שלום וברכה. בעזרת השם הקדוש ברוך הוא give everyone ברכה והצלחה, נשיאת דשמיא הגדולה, מלכי דעה ומרחתה וזכתה, ותשמע הקדוש ברוך הוא spell everyone שפע בלידי, and may this week be a week full of success, amen, כן ירצה בעזרת השם. You know, but we open up this week's parasha with a very, very interesting sentence. Torah opens up and says, אלה תולדות יצחק בן אברהם, אברהם הוליד יצחק. Which in simpler words says, this is the life of Yitzchak, son of Avraham. Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak, which is already a concept that we should put aside a little bit of this idea. How can Avraham give birth? We're going to put it aside. The question that is asked is, what is this reason of doubling down on the language? This is the life of Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the son of Avraham. Okay, now it's clear. We already knew it, but you want to repeat it, that's fine. And then you repeat again, Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. We just said that Avraham was the father of Yitzchak. So what's this concept of repeating it a second time? Especially when we know that the Torah doesn't speak of access language. It's very, very precise. Nothing is said just because it wants to be said. There must be a reason behind all. There must be an understanding behind all. So, how can we understand this? So, there's a beautiful teaching in Zohar Kadosh that talks about bringing miracles into the world. And we think that this could be a big answer and direction for us to understand this week's parasha. The Zohar Kadosh said that there are multiple ways that a person can bring a miracle to the world. What are those ways? So before we understand how we break the miracle, we have to understand what's the challenge of a miracle coming down to the world. So now that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he created laws. He created a construct. He created a system. And that is what we call the laws of nature. Where within the creation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took angels and put angels as managers or as in charge of every single creation, as every single entity. To the point where the Gemara says that the leaf doesn't fall from the tree until the angel hits it. Meaning even every single leaf has an angel that stands on it. And that angel is in charge of that leaf. What is the job of the angel? The job of the angel is to keep the laws that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set in place when he created the world. So they are essentially like policemen. They enforce the law. They make sure the law of the nature is held to its full extent. And that's what we call Teva, Chokei Teva. All the laws and the order that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in place with creating the nature and all its construct. A miracle, at its essence, is essentially an act that could be positive or negative, but in simple concept, defines those laws of nature, or goes against the enforcement that those angels have on every single object and on every single entity within the world. Based on that, we can understand that there are multiple different ways of creating a miracle. How is that? One way, that a person prays for a miracle, and says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, help me, I need a miracle, I need a miracle. And then the angel comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you created me to enforce law. Now you're asking for me to change the law? It goes against all logic. So the Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes from the merit of the individual and says, you know what? Give me some of this merit. I will pay off the angel. And the angel will close his mouth and walk away. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. Take some of a person's merit, of a person's money, coins that he's been collecting with good deeds, pays the angel, says the angel, take this as a payment for you bending yourself a little bit, and go away. And that's one way of receiving a miracle. That's the reason that the Gemara says we're not allowed to rely on a miracle. Why? Because we don't know if we have enough merit to pay off that angel. Now this also explains why miracles are becoming more and more hard and rare. Why? Because every single time the angel gets paid, he becomes more wealthy, becomes more powerful, becomes more strong. The stronger the angel and the more wealthy the angel is, the more merit he's going to want to bend off his rules. So every single miracle that happens, the nature becomes stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And changing those laws of nature becomes more of a challenge, of a difficulty, of something that is very, very hard to actually do, to actually set in place. So that is one concept. The second way of bringing a miracle is what the Zohar Kadosh says, that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu changes the nature in one direction, the angel comes forward and says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what did you do? Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't worry, I'm going to change it back. I'm going to reverse it. It's like if we take a pen and Hashem makes a miracle. And he turns the pen into a bird. When the angel will come and say, Hashem, you changed the laws of nature, the pen became a bird. What will Hashem need to do to fix it? He needs to take a bird and turn it into a pen. To reverse the miracle, to turn the miracle right upside down. And once the miracle is turned upside down, the nature comes down, the angels come down, and everything can go back to normal. That's how the Zohar HaKadosh says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is able to bring change to the world, miracles to the world, and still keep the nature intact with its rules. Not breaking it, but rather adjusting it for certain situations. Now, this is something that we can see throughout many places of the Torah. There's this concept where it says that when Bnei Israel were traveling and they had the miracle of the tearing of the sea, it is Bnei Israel alchu bayam bayabasha. Bnei Israel walked within the ocean on dry land. How can you walk on the ocean and dry land? So the Midrash says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took water and turned it into sand. Where the water was flipped into sand, because in the ocean there are mountains. So how did they climb the mountains in the ocean? No. It all became flat because the water was turned into sand. So if the water turned into sand, it means that now to fix this, what needs to happen? Sand needs to turn into water. Where was sand turned into water? It turned into water a day later when Bnei Israel needed water to drink. And there was the well of Miriam that was water that was coming out of the desert. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu was reversing the miracle in a convenient place that actually continued benefiting Bnei Israel in a different manner. Based off that, we can understand something very, very interesting. We see that Avimelech took Sarah. Now, the Torah makes it very, very clear and very, very explicit that Avimelech didn't do anything to Sarah. Avimelech took Sarah, she sat in the room, and that's it. But we see that Avimelech was punished. He was punished with what? He was punished with the punishment that all his women no longer were able to have children. They became barren. What was the purpose of this? So we said, maybe we can say, we know that Sarah was born without a womb. She couldn't bring a child. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu was to turn Sarah into a woman that could bring a child, or in other words, create a miracle, he would have to reverse that miracle in another place. Because the nature needs to be flipped upside down. So what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu took Avimelech that stole Sarah, had debt that he needed to pay, made a miracle that his woman became now barren, and now that his women are not able to bring children, which the nature was flipped, Hashem needs to flip it somewhere else. When he needs to take a woman that can't bring children, and do what? And make her be able to bring children. So where did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do that? He did it with Sarah. The miracle started with Avimelech's woman that could bring children that now can't, and now Hashem took Sarah that can't bring children and now could. And that's why Rashi says that there was jokesters and silly people in that generation that were saying that Avimelech is really the father of Yitzchak. How could it possible when Yitzchak, the story of Avimelech was many, many years before the story of the birth of Yitzchak? So what, Sarah was pregnant for many, 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 many years? No. Those silly people were not saying that Avimelech was the actual physical father of Yitzchak, but rather because of Avimelech, Yitzchak was born. Where if it wasn't for Avimelech's wives that became barren, Yitzchak would never be able to be born. So the idea of doubling on the language, Abraham, Oridi, Yitzchak, it was to ensure and for everyone to be clear that even those silly people that were mentioning that Avimelech was the father, no. Maybe because of Avimelech, Yitzchak was born, but the father was always Abraham. And that's his concept of doubling. So we see a little bit of the behind the structure of how miracles come to fruition. So B'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us the merit that we will never need miracles, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem will always act with us with mercy and kindness and ahava and shefa and kinat.
Amen, amen.